So we decided to take a look at Joe Biden's website for our method of media, and each of us decided to analyze a different thing about his website. I did storytelling.
I did the listening aspect of it.
And I did voice.
Yeah. So he was really trying to project an image of being a man of the people and like a true American. He was putting all these things like, we need to get America back and to what it was. And he's also appealing to a very wide demographic in his vision for if he becomes president. He attempts to be really transparent and relatable to the general populace because it's interesting that he starts with his story. The way that the website is formulated is that you click in and the first thing that comes up is his story, and then his vision, and then his store and joining his cause. But it's interesting that he leads with story. He tells his whole life story, and he starts from when he was born all the way up to where he is now. So all the tragedies in his life, where he went to college, his experiences in Congress and in the White House, and it was just really interesting.
Well, the format for his story is based on an important aspect from his life, right? The whole train thing.
Yeah.
Where it talks about at length about how he's like on the train, constantly going back and forth to visit his son in the hospital. So he's constantly on Amtrak, and then the story closes with them saying, and this was the Biden family's first trip as a private citizen on Amtrak in 8 years.
Yeah. Because he really, the way he formats it is the story, it's a train through his life, and it's a train running down tracks starting at the top, which is where he's born. And he was talking about how he commutes when he first started working in the government. He was commuting, like, I think it was 120 miles.
So that's a very linear conception of his life.
Yeah.
And that there's just one direction. It sounds like a man certain of the story he's telling about himself and that he will end up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Building off of that, the story was definitely the bit that was at least the easiest to access for me. And
Yeah.
like I went to the policy side of the page, and it's done in these tiny hyperlinks that are really hard to find. It's not
Yeah.
a very pretty user interface. But the story's beautiful. You have the train running down the tracks. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's all laid out nicely. There's no equivalent for the more substantive stuff. So in terms of what it seems like the website wants you to focus on, it isn't the policies that you put forward specifically, barring that covered in the story. And that's all retrospective stuff. Anything looking forward is made far more difficult to access. And I didn't even click on the links because I didn't want to have to go through the process of looking through these very small point links, like very small font size. Literally the first thing that they give you, they ask for money when you go to the website, which is kind of weird, where it's like,
you have to say later to go to the actual website, but
Exactly.
it's still there.
And then
like,
even when
on
you're
the
on the
top.
website, it's just a big banner on the top being like, support Joe's vision.
You want to understand more before giving money,
Yeah.
but they're just right there saying, we want your money
Yeah.
right now. We know that we haven't told you, we haven't even given you the opportunity to listen to us, but we're going to pump your wallet for cash.
Well, it's just like, I think they're assuming that anyone that's going to their page is a supporter of him already, which is weird.
Now you're already listening, which is doesn't make sense for a campaign website when you think about it.
Yeah. It should be like his goals are and his ambitions for if he becomes president first. And then you're like, that's what draws you in, because you're like, I agree, and I think that's good, and then story, and then money.
I guess he's kind of assuming that we've like been listening for the past 8 years while he's been
Probably.
vice president. He's
Yeah.
been here for a
Maybe
long
that's
time.
why, because his popularity, he's drawing on the fact that he was vice president.
Yeah,
It's like,
because basically everyone knows who he is.
If you're looking up his name, you probably want to give him money.
Yeah.
of
At
course.
least, or find out something else. But if you go to his website, you probably want to give him money.
Like first person, like second person, the amount of different voices used to draw in people.
Yeah.
So the use of second person, I saw that there was a lot of it, and I think they wanted us to think that we're part of the group effort and to draw in the audience in that way. There was also a lot of first person usage, like you can help, you can go out and contribute to his campaign.
Yeah.
And I thought the most prominent voice was obviously that of Joe Biden, because there's so many quotes, and just his entire story page is filled with quotes and images of his life. And then went on to Joe's story, which could have been Joe Biden himself, to be honest, because it was obviously trying to hype him up, and put him on a pedestal.
You think he had him narrate his own
Yeah,
video?
probably.
Well, another being able to call a presidential candidate by your first name is kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's like our friend, and then it makes you think like, and he's just telling us his story, and I can tell him my story, and he's gonna read it. Which I don't know him personally, but I don't know if he's gonna actually go through and read everything that people send to him.
Yeah.
So do we ever actually hear Joe's physical voice on the website? Did you see that come up at any
on
point?
the first page, if you scroll down and on his Joe story, there's like a video capturing what he's saying, and he's obviously giving an interview or like of his goals. So that's the only instance, not on text, but through media expression, through a video, that you can really tell his voice directly.
And when we say his voice, is it from a series of points over his life, or is it just one speech?
It's just one speech, what I recognize. The other implications of his voice are just quotes, basically quotations, which isn't that personable to you, I would assume. You know, when you're reading it, you're just like, oh, okay, here's another quote.
So we just have a few seconds of Joe Biden actually speaking with his voice.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Well, it feels less interactive than reading.
It does.
If it's just a video, then you're seeing and hearing somebody else. If you're reading, you have a little bit of autonomy in where you're going. So in a way, the listener is more entrapped if it's a voice in that sense. But also it's like, I want to hear his voice if he's a candidate speaking.
Yeah.
And a lot of the text is mostly just speaking for the reader. You know what I mean? Like, I went on the Joe's Vision tab, and it was using the second person, like, we are doing this, we're doing that. It was in order to get closer to the middle class, what he's reaching out for.
Yeah.
And
another thing that I thought was a little weird is he's pushing all this, like, I am a person you can talk to kind of thing, but then when he's telling his story, it's in third person. It's like, Joe did this, and it's not like if he were actually telling that story, he's like, this is what happened to me. And so if he were talking like the first person,
I think the use of narrator is really weird.
It's a story told about him,
Yeah.
which is kind of unusual.